when you go through your everyday life and you're not engaged in anything that's new or exciting, your brain is very idle. So it allows yourself to think about all these crazy, bad, negative things, right? There's a lot of actually good developmental advantages of letting a child get bored. Yeah.
What do you suggest are some of the symptoms I can identify on my own in order to determine whether I need clinical help or
Right.
not?
Stop treating kids like kids of the past. You know how kids of the past, you tell them, okay, go walk here, they walk there. Go jump here, you jump there. You go play this game, go play the game. Kids don't think like that anymore.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to V On Air's podcast series, The Whole Story. My name is Natalie Chai, and through this podcast, we're looking to speak to Malaysians of impact and listen to their side of the story. If you're tuning in from the rwgenting.com website, welcome. And if you're strolling around Resorts World Genting, show us some love by tagging us at Resorts World Genting. Joining us today is Dr. Joel Lau, clinical psychologist and a familiar voice in Malaysia's mental health space. He has shared his insights on many pressing issues on local radio, from managing mental health to the pressures faced by Gen Zs and coping with the loss of a loved one, among many others. Today, we're very excited to hear more about his life story and have an in-depth conversation with him. Welcome to the show, Dr. Joel.
Thanks for having me.
Maybe give us a short introduction of yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Joel Low. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been doing this since 2011, so that will be about 15 years next year, I think. We run a place called The Mind in The Mind Psychological Services and Training in Jaya 1, and we've been there for about 11 years, 12 years next year. So we've been doing this for quite a while. Yeah. So this is something that's it's a passion for me. I wanted to do this since I was 14. So yeah, very happy to be able to do this.
Since you were 14,
Yeah, yeah.
how did you get the idea of doing this at 14?
Right, right. So I was going through my emo nemo teenage years, angry at the world's angry at me, I hate everyone, that kind of thing. So one day, my friends got very sick and tired of that. So they dragged me into an empty classroom and just basically scolded me for an hour, lah. Reminding me that, amongst other things, stop being a mean person, stop being so grumpy. But more importantly, I think they reminded me that I was loved and appreciated by them, lah. And that got me thinking that, yeah, maybe I don't have to hate everyone. Maybe not everyone hates me, right? So I left that session, lots of tears, lots of crying, lots of sadness and all that. But I felt very lucky that my friends actually cared enough to take care of me like that, right? And then it got me thinking, I'm lucky enough to have friends like this. Does everybody? And I don't think the answer is yes. And that really got me started on this journey of being someone for these people, right? So yeah, since then, since 14, it was just this non-stop journey, adventure to try and be a therapist at some form or some kind. And now, so many years later, here I am.
Wow, so at 14, your group of friends
Yeah,
gave you a good scolding,
yeah, big one. I'm still
but
friends
it
with them, by the way.
but it only took one session of that.
Yeah, but it was intense. This is like you were talking about 10 people, like just giving it to me all at once, right? So it was an intense 1 hour. Yeah,
That is a lot of love
yeah, a lot of
from
love,
10 friends at
a lot
one
of tough
go.
love. Yeah, that's right.
And when you've decided on this path, did you start researching more about it, if this exists? Because as a 14-year-old, I assume there's maybe at that time not too much resources on,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. I was lucky enough to be in a school where they actually started the school counseling program. So they actually had a dedicated counseling teacher there, right? So naturally, I went there and I got to know her. And then and so happened her brother was actually teaching in Help University, which at that time and still is like one of the bigger psychology schools in Malaysia, right? So she got me in touch with her brother after when I was in Form 5, and then naturally I went to help, and yeah, that's history, I suppose. That's how it happened.
were your parents supportive of your decision?
Nope. So my dad was the typical quintessential Chinese businessman. He worked in a company for many years. And he was of the opinion, why do something so insecure, right? At least back at that time, right? So this was like we're talking about 2010, actually no, later than that, earlier than that, probably early 2000s actually. So he was saying, why don't do the typical Chinaman businesses, degrees, right? Business or law or medicine and all that. And I told my dad, no, I don't want to be like everybody else. And I like this. I have passion for this. So after much fighting and argument, my dad said, okay, fine. You go and do a foundation in, let's say, I did the Southern Australian Matriculation for a year. So if anything happens to psychology degree, you can have a fallback plan, right? So okay, fine, I did that. And then my dad agreed and he paid for that one. And then after that, I started my psych degree and then all the way until now. Lah. So my dad has converted, thankfully. And now he tells everybody, yeah, study psychology, very good and can find money. And so that's where we are now. Lah.
Of course, because now you have your own clinic
Yeah.
and you can manage your own time.
Yeah. That helps, definitely.
Right. I also read that on your website you wrote extensively about this thing called Group Cognitive Behaviour Therapy, right?
Yep.
And the idea of I think, therefore I am.
Yep, that's right.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this study that you've done?
Yep. So the saying thing that I think therefore I am actually comes from the theory that we use in psychology, one of the leading theories in psychology, and that's cognitive behavior therapy, or CBT for short, right? So the whole premise here is that we are who we are because of the thoughts that we have, right? So let me give you an example, okay? Getting a promotion at work. Now, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing
Oh, how come?
because that means I've grown, I've progressed, and I'm earning a bit more.
That's nice, right? Yeah, good. Can it be a bad thing?
It can be a bad thing
Okay, how come?
if I cannot handle the stress that comes with it.
That's right. Having a baby, a good thing or bad thing?
Having a baby naturally is a good thing
Okay, because
because it means expansion of my family.
Yeah.
I get to have someone close to me,
Good.
blood related.
yeah, and a bad thing because 4 o'clock diaper changes and things like that is not great. So I guess with these two examples, that basically highlights the how we use CBT, right? Every situation that we go through in life is neither good nor bad, happy nor sad. It is what it is. It's our perspectives on things, our thoughts about it that actually determine whether something's good or bad. So that's why I think therefore I am, right? We are determined, or our reactions towards the world is based on the thoughts that we have. So CBT is this theory that actually teaches people that idea that you go through something that's quote unquote bad. Is it really? Or maybe you just think it's bad and that's why it's become bad.
So it is your way of reframing the mind about, yes, you are very stressed about A, but hey, you know what?
Do you have
If
to
you
be?
change your perception, it's B.
That's right.
So this is the theory that you work on when you speak to most of your clients.
Yeah, well, all my clients actually. So in our field, we specialize either in population, so let's say children, for example, or families, or maybe a certain disorder. But for me, I specialize in the theory. So I do CBT for all my clients.
I see. Does this have anything to do with some of the things that I'm reading? Sometimes it's called like a placebo effect, where you think a certain thing may work for you. Let's say Panadol may work for you, and then actually it doesn't. But somehow, just because you feel like it should, and then it therefore
Yep.
works.
Yeah, I think the onset of it definitely. So so placebo also another iteration of that would be fake it till you make it, right? So we've actually tried this experiment with clients before, right? So they're coming in, they've been feeling a bit sad. So we tell them, look, just humorous for a moment, right? For the next 1 week until the next session, every day you just go through life with a smile and see what happens, right? So when they come back next week, they tell me, I feel better, but I don't know why, right? So I think the placebo effect, fake it till you make it, it's a good starter. It gets the ball rolling. But I think until you are able to help the clients see why it's happening, it's never going to be sustainable. So it's almost like one of those things where if you take it away, then it goes away. But if they understand the logic behind it, the understanding behind it, then it's much more long-lived and much more sustainable.
So now that you've met, I'm sure dozens, thousands of patients over the years, do you find that it's common for people to have negative thoughts about everything in their lives? Is it common for people to always only see the bad things?
I think not always. I think certain people would have a higher frequency for negative thoughts, and then that's why they have depression, anxiety, and things like that. But for average people like you and I, for example, we go through our day. It's impossible for us to only have good thoughts, or impossible for us to only have bad thoughts. We have a good mix of them, and things like that, right? So I think when you find yourself in a situation in life or period of life where you have a lot more negative thoughts, then that's where there's a high likelihood that you become, depressed or anxious and things like that lah. So that's what typically happens lah.
What is the common cause of this regular practice of negative thoughts, you think? Because I find that when I meet certain people, they may have a very consistent stream
Yeah.
of negative thoughts,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
they do. Like a roller coaster ride.
Yep.
I'll be thinking about the thrill, but this person can go about, hey, what if one of the screws get loose and then
Fly off and
what
things
if
like that,
what
yeah.
if my glasses fly
Yeah,
off?
yeah, yeah.
But it's so natural for them to start on that train. So maybe just for the benefit of our listeners, if they find themselves in this train of negative thoughts all the time, is there a way I can undo it, or is there a small practice that I can do every day to start to improve that?
I think there's some simple things you can do. So one of the earlier steps or the earlier things that we ask clients to do in therapy is something we call behavioral activation, right? So sometimes it's easier to do than to think, right? Because when we do things, we're on autopilot sometimes and things like that, right? So for example, where I work in Jaiwan, there is actually a rock climbing gym, right? So obviously for clients who can have the resources to engage in pro activity like that, I tell them, hey, you're feeling very depressed and anxious right now. Why don't you go try rock climbing for an hour? And to be fair, I got no affiliation, so I don't get a cut from their sessions or anything like that, right? And they go for the sessions, and then I ask them, okay, you went there for an hour. How did you feel during that hour? And they said, actually, pretty good. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was climbing. And then they ask me, how come? What happened? So what I tell them is this, right? When you go through your everyday life and you're not engaged in anything that's new or exciting, your brain is very idle. So it allows yourself to think about all these crazy, bad, negative things, right? But when you go do something like rock climbing, you focus on not falling down and dying, right? So it's hard for you to focus on, I don't know, your exams or your boss or your mother-in-law or whatever it is that you're freaking about. And I think that really pulls away those negative thoughts and you feel a lot better in the moment. But again, it's a in the moment kind of thing. So once you disengage, then the bad feelings might start coming back in. But as an early start, if you're feeling yourself feeling a bit down and out, try and do something new, something that's exciting, something you always wanted to try and see, and you'll be surprised that you'll feel better for it.
So maybe disengaging for a long period of time, meaning I do different new things,
Yeah,
that can actually maybe break the habit of me constantly
That's
being
right.
in a negative
that's right.
tornado in my head.
Only if that doesn't work, then you probably need some extra help.
Okay, all right. So that's for the rest. But Dr. Joel, I'm quite interested in yourself, like being a parent and a practicing clinical psychologist yourself.
Yep.
Has that in any way influenced your own parenting style?
What's that saying? You cannot treat your own family members. I think that applies very significantly here, right? So oftentimes when I work with parents, as clients, I tell them, okay, do this, do this, do this, and then in the back of my head, I'm thinking, this is a quiet voice at the back of my head that's going, Joel, you're such a hypocrite because you don't do any of this with your kids. I think when it comes to own family members, it's hard because there's so much baggage involved, right? So like with your kids, you want to discipline them and scold them, but you also know that the reason why they're acting that way is because of all these things that have happened in the past. I know all this history about them, so it just makes it that much harder to pull the trigger, so to speak, lah. So do I try and be guided by all these good principles and practices? Yeah, I do. Does it always work? No. I still end up being like any other parent where I lose my cool and I shout at my kids or I give them a timeout or whatever it is. But I think the one thing that I'm consistent in doing with my kids is that after everything that happens, we sit down and we talk about it, right? Because like again, being true to that premise of I think therefore I am, I want them to understand that every consequence every action has a consequence. Everything we do has a reason. So I want to explain to them the logic or the intention behind all these actions. Do they always get it? Maybe, maybe not, but at least that's a good start in that sense. So that one I'm consistent about. Everything else, I try. I try.
How old are they?
I've got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old.
And you find that conversations work for them? Like you said,
Yeah.
sometimes?
Yeah. So like even my 6-year-old, right, she thinks she's 6 and she doesn't get it. No, she gets quite a bit. You might have to simplify some concepts for her, but generally speaking, she's quite okay in understanding all these kind of concepts and ideas.
So now that you're facing a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and these are what, do they call them Gen Alphas?
I've lost count.
I've lost count, but I believe they're Gen
Should
Alphas.
be, yeah.
Do you find that this generation is a little bit different when it comes to how their brains work as opposed to millennials?
Yes, I think because of the exposure they get, right? So, like, when I was growing up, I had computers were a brand new thing to me, right? So, which means that my sphere of social interactions and, friendships and all that were people of my age, like in my classroom, right? But now with my kids, because they've got, games and social media and YouTube and all kind of things, their interactions are a lot wider. So there are people their own age, of course, but they have older people as well. Like my kids, they regularly play with their cousins who are twice their age, for example, right? And I think because of this enhanced exposure to a wider range of people, that means their development also has changed a lot. In some areas, it's been become a lot quicker, right? Like for example, in terms of how they dress, how they speak. But in some ways, it's actually regressed as well, right? So for example, dealing with difficult emotions and things like that, right? So I think it's a thing where it definitely is happening, and I think the reason why is because of the exposure, right? The different kinds of exposure that they're getting.
I've recently I came across, I think it was an article about how millennials deal with difficult emotions better or failing better, because we used to play with games like Super Mario, and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
always
yeah.
gotta, when we die in the game, we gotta restart the game
Yeah,
and
yeah,
try
yeah,
again
yeah,
and again
yeah.
until we hit the end. But for the games these days, it's always like a refresh anytime you want,
Watch a
or
video and then
watch a
you
video and
yeah,
then you
that's right.
you get an extension. You
That's
don't
right.
need to be sent all the way back.
Yep.
So you think that the way we play, do you think the way we play games also shape how we progress when it comes to nurturing the mind?
Definitely. I think that's one of the biggest faults that parents nowadays do. They don't allow the kids to fail, right? Because understandably, like, I mean, if you think about it from a very short term perspective, failing is a not nice feeling, right? You lose at a game, you lose at a basketball competition or whatever it is. It sucks. It's not nice, right? And naturally, as parents, we want to take care of our kids. We want to make sure that they don't have this kind of bad emotions or bad feelings. We try and save them from it. So that's why you have things like participation trophies, or you don't turn up for your third place, prize giving because it's so sad and all that. And I think the problem with that is that it's a short term gain, long term loss kind of thing. And exactly like what you said, these kids never learn how to lose, right? And if as parents, when they're 5 or 6, we can do that for them. When they're 10 or 12, we still can do that to them. But when they're 21 and 22, when they get fired from the first job, or the first person breaks up with them or dumps them and things like that, when are they going to learn to lose? And if they're going to learn the first time to lose when they're 22, and there's no one around to help them, what's going to happen, right? If my 6-year-old fails at a gym competition right now, for example, I'm there to help her. There to help let her cry it out, explain to her, you can try again, things like that, which is great, and that's normal development. So I think that parents nowadays should do that more often, let kids lose. So that's why when I play Mario Kart nowadays, I every now and then I'll let them win, but every now and then I'll just beat them so hard until they start to cry. Not in a mean way, but intentionally I'm trying to let them lose lah, let them feel what it's like to lose lah.
That is a very nice way.
Weird parenting.
No, honestly, I think because letting them experience the taste of losing
Yeah,
something in life
yeah,
is something that they can't possibly get too much of when they're young now,
that's right.
because
That's
we're
right.
protecting them
That's
so
right.
much,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
So, what do you think? What are the practical steps that a parent can take to nurture a healthier mental well-being for these kids, so that they end up being better people
Yeah,
when they
yeah,
grow up?
yeah. In a weird kind of way, I think doing less. I think parents nowadays are very involved in the kids' life. They want to manufacture and groom and customize every single experience
Is
the kid
that so? So
has.
parents of this age, you realize, have been a lot more
A
involved
lot
in their
more, a lot
kids' life.
more. Like you hear people sending the kids off to horseback riding and theater classes and music classes and swimming classes, and there's no free time, right? There's a lot of actually good developmental advantages of letting a child get bored, right? Because when they're bored, it engages their creativity. They go and solve problems. They go and fix things. Another thing is that parents are so quick to jump in and fix problems for the kids. Let them figure it out. Like, what's the worst that can happen? They maybe break it. Okay, great. Then we go and solve it. Like. So I think honestly, the best general advice I can give to parents is to do less. Trust that your kids will figure things out. Trust that your kids will get out of their boredom and things like that. When I was growing up, my parents were working all the time, right? When I was bored, my parents said, suck it up, go do something, right? Go figure it out. And we turned out okay, So I think honestly, sometimes we can afford to do less,
Let your kids feel boredom,
Yeah, feel bad things, boredom, blues. It's not a bad thing. Those are good things to do.
which really puts a light bulb in my head because I realize kids these days, like you said, are so packed with extracurricular
Yeah,
activities.
yeah.
It's like the parents are worried
That's right. That's
they
right.
they're bored, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Or maybe the parents just want some time on their
Oh,
own.
no, maybe that's also a possibility. That's true. That's true.
But that's true. I've never seen it from that light. Like, let the kids feel boredom, let them learn how to lose,
Fall down, scratch their legs, scratch
deal
their
with
knees.
scratch on their leg
Yeah,
on their
yeah, that's
own.
right. That's right. And then you watch them problem solve and fix problems together. It's amazing. They can do it. Just trust them.
That's a great tip for parents out there. I love that. Joel, I've also read that you've recently worked with quite a handful of individuals who have gone through more common problems these days, like depression, panic attacks, anxiety attacks.
Yep.
And these are largely used terms,
Yep.
in my opinion. So, as a professional, I feel maybe there's quite a couple of people back at home who have been wondering if they're going through these things, but they're not professionally diagnosed, right?
Yep.
What do you suggest are some of the symptoms I can identify on my own in order to determine whether I need clinical help or
Right.
not?
Yeah, great question, great question. And I think that's something we get asked quite often as well, right? So everyone thinks that, my problems is not big enough or not important enough to seek help. It's okay. I think for us, we use two factors to determine whether you need professional help or not. And the two factors are social functioning and occupational functioning, right? Sounds fancy, not really. Social functioning is basically your ability to socialize with people, and occupational functioning is basically your ability to do your job, whether it's to study or to work, right? So, from our clinical perspective, someone is considered as clinically going through a clinical problem, a significant clinical problem that would need therapy, for example, when either one of those things, these two things, or both of these two things are disrupted. So, meaning to say that, let's say you are usually quite a sociable person, extroverted, and because something happened to you, you see a massive decline, right? They suddenly become very introverted, very quiet, right? Or if let's say you usually quite a decent worker, you get your jobs done, and then suddenly your performance drops like a rock, right? So usually when either of these things happen, that indicates that something is wrong, right? We don't know what is wrong yet. Then what? Go and find out, lah. Basically, that's the red flag that you use. Now, the thing to remember is that this is when we say disruption, right? It's not just one way. It's not just declining. Sometimes, if someone is very introverted, suddenly becomes hyper extroverted. That is also indicative that something is wrong as well. Like some kids, for example, young kids, when they're going through trouble in school, to avoid school, they may become hypersocial. So they spend more time with friends and things like that because they're avoiding, let's say, schoolwork that they are failing at and things like that, right? So when we say disruptions, it's both ways. When there's any significant change from the person's normal, that means something is wrong, and that probably is a good indication that you need some help.
But what if that change is long term? So maybe, I mean, it's just an impression
Yeah.
of, let's say, my introverted kid. I've always been worried about my introverted kid, but after whatever reason, he or she has suddenly become very extroverted, and to me, it's like a good thing.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm like, okay, I'll just let my kid be because now finally he or she's making friends.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But maybe in your experiences, it's too sudden.
Correct.
Like, it's too short of a time span
That's
for
right.
her to just suddenly be
That's right.
extroverted.
That's right.
So is there like a time frame where I can use to monitor my child or a friend to see if this is a temporary change or it's a drastic change to determine if
Not
there's a
really.
problem?
Not really, because every disorder has its own timeline, so it's very hard to nail it that way, like generally speaking. But I think if you know someone good enough, right, let's say it's a good friend or a family member, you'll know when the change is weird. You know that it's very abrupt. So I think once the change happens, if you monitor it for like let's say a couple of weeks and it's sustainable, then maybe it's okay lah. It's just someone turning over a new leaf potentially. But if you see that change happens very sudden and then it kind of flip flops a little bit and then it goes back and forth, then there's a pattern to it. Then it's more likely that there's something awry than a good change happening, basically.
And this has nothing to do with your MBTIs, right? It's not like you take a test today and then tomorrow you're like extroverted 60%, today introverted 20%. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah, yes and no lah. I think sometimes your MBTI, your personality types can inform how extroverted introverted you are, but sometimes even the jobs you do can also reverse into change that as well. So, like for example, you're a host, so you need to be sociable, right? We also know of a lot of hosts who are very introverted but sociable because of work. So that also naturally changes their personalities types over time lah. So it's a chicken and egg kind of thing lah, and both
That's
can
true.
influence one
Yeah.
another lah.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's
Yeah.
only if it's disruptive to your work, you find that there's no balance when it comes to you functioning in society.
That's right. Sudden changes is
Sudden
what we look out for
changes.
lah.
Right. So that is if you want to help, you want to diagnose to see if you actually need clinical help. This is
Yes.
not about self-diagnosing.
No,
Okay?
not at all. Not at all.
Right. But also, then I want to touch about the part where after you diagnose a person, I've come across some people who may be in denial of their diagnosis or they don't know how to acknowledge it
Yeah.
and they find themselves to be in more distress
Yeah.
when they find that they're clinically depressed,
That's
for
right.
example.
That's right.
Would you still advise these people to do something about themselves, or would you suggest that they take a rest and then revisit the situation again?
Yeah. So assuming this person does have a clinical diagnosis, but they are reacting poorly towards it because they don't like the label or don't like the diagnosis, I think the overriding recommendation is still for them to come in for help, definitely, right? But there's this saying that I like to share with most everyone that I meet. You can force the horse to go to the river, but you can't force it to drink the water, right? And I think same applies for people like that, right? So they know they've got a problem. They know that there are solutions to it. But if they're not ready to accept it or try it out, it's never going to work anyways. So you might as well wait until they're ready for it. Now, does that mean they're going to trip and fall a few more times, go through more bad patches and things like that? Yes. But I think them coming to that conclusion on their own that they're ready for help versus you force feeding it to them and then they have such a bad experience, they swear off therapy for the rest of their life. I think that former rather than the latter in that sense. So wait and see, give them time. Once they're ready, then they can try and see.
So time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay, this next question could be controversial, but I know a lot of people are jumping on this ship lately. What do you think about consulting ChatGPT for, your
Diagnosis
problems
is-
in
yeah,
life?
yeah. I think for me as a therapist, right, there are good and bad, right? So, for example, if you have a sudden set of symptoms, right, your heart is racing, your breathing becomes very shallow, your palms are becoming very sweaty, your muscles are aching and all that. So you have a set of symptoms that you can't put your finger on what's going on. Then I think ChatGPT is a good early diagnostic tool just to see whether it's nothing or something, right? But I think once you get into the realm of using ChatGPT for therapy, that's when I become concerned because you know how they say that ChatGPT or these kind of large language models, they're only as good as the prompts or the input that you give it. So, and us as humans, we only know what we know, we don't know what we don't know, right? So if you're asking ChatGPT a certain set of questions or certain set of responses that you feed it into it, then it's going to give you a certain set of answers, right? So it's that lack of ability to determine what's going on by the ChatGPT, for example, or these AI bots that concerns me. I don't know what their intentions are, right? Because
The person involved.
the not the person, not the client, but the person they're speaking to. So, for example, like us as therapists, right? One of the biggest lessons we learn is intentionality. Everything that I do, don't say in session, I know why I'm doing it. So, like, if let's say you're my client, for example, and you burst out in tears, whether or not I give you a tissue or not is something that I've already predetermined, or at least I've decided why I'm going to give it to you, right? Because sometimes it's better for you to cry it out, right? I don't know where that ChatGPT is coming from. So because of that unknown, I'm always very cautious and very wary about it, and we should be too, I think.
So we should be a bit more cautious when it comes to using
so.
ChatGPT for therapy.
Therapy, yeah. For identifying things or trying to figure out what's going on, yeah, sure, go for it. I think it's honestly better than me because I can't remember half the things I read, right? But for therapy, I think it's always safer to speak to a human being because we know we know what we're trying to do, basically.
Yeah, I think because a lot of people find that AI is so approachable. You don't have to pay for
Yeah,
AI,
yeah.
and that's why they also feel like some things are too personal and they need an immediate response, which is why their go-to is always just an app,
Yeah.
right?
If you don't mind me plugging something,
For sure.
there are actually a lot of resources available for immediate
Please do
care
share.
here.
Yeah.
So, like Befrienders, for example, you can call them up. They have, I think, email-based versions and call-based versions as well. There's also Italian, I think, Italian Case, if I'm not mistaken. That's by the Ministry of Health, if I'm not mistaken. So they are someone you can call as well, and they've got counselors on standby to speak to you. There are a lot of different mental health apps that you can have access to as well. So there are a lot of options which gives you access to a trained therapist. Use those, right? And most of the Malaysian ones, the Befrienders and the Italian Case are free, right? So
At no cost.
at no cost, right?
At any time of the day?
Yes, but I think typically when you get to the later hours of the night, it gets more busy because people are freer now from work, right? But yeah, so they're available, they're free. And again, for me, I'm biased. I think speaking to a human is better than a chatbot for now, at least.
Okay, so Befrienders,
Italian Case, if I'm not
Italian
mistaken.
Case.
I'll share the
If
link
not
with you
wrong.
later on. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
speak to some real help, and it's really just a call away.
Yeah.
All right. Now that wraps up the first segment of today's podcast. Coming up next, we'd love to see some of the personal items you've brought onto the show,
Sure.
as of any other guest. How many items have you got for us today?
I've got two big ones and one other thing which has a few small things inside.
Oh,
I'll
love
explain
that.
to you as we go along.
All right, let's take a look at the first one.
Right. So the first one is this. It's a frisbee. I played this in uni, right? Ultimate frisbee in uni, and then after that I came back to Malaysia, and my friends and I, we basically the early stages of the Malaysian frisbee scene, we were involved with that. So we were playing frisbee quite a bit.
Where were you previously?
Studying Australia, University
Oh,
of
in
Queensland.
Australia.
Yeah. So obviously I clearly don't play frisbee anymore, but it's still fun. I throw around the disc with my kids. They're trying to learn how to play, which is nice. So this is always fun. So a very important game to me. I think I quite like this game. Right?
Did you join any tournaments
No,
or like?
I was never the. I did therapy for a reason because I think I'm do my best work sitting down, not running around. Clearly, I'm not physically inclined.
I see, but it's still a sport that you can now still enjoy with your kids.
Yeah, because they do the running. I throw and then they catch. So yeah, that helps. That helps a lot.
Phew, and you remember still how to.
Yes, that one is like
throw a
muscle memory,
frisbee.
You don't forget that laugh. So,
Got it. Yeah, muscle memory is a very funny thing.
Yeah,
You think
you'd
you
be
forget,
surprised.
but your body just
Yeah,
goes.
like riding a bike. You just jump on and you get on doing it again.
I know. I thought I'd forgotten how to ride a bike, and then suddenly it's just like, oh, I guess this is how we do it.
After a
right?
while, your body remembers it.
So it is your favorite sport per se.
Yeah.
So do you
definitely.
work out on at all? Weightlifting, strength training.
I carry my kids and groceries now.
That is
helps,
hardcore, hardcore long-term strength training.
Yeah. That's
All
what I
right,
do now.
that's the frisbee.
Yes, that's right. This other thing is actually something quite. This is a big thing. So when I started my master's program, becoming a psychologist, this was my first ever clipboard, right? And I still use it to today. That's why it's like taped and bruised and broken and all that kind of stuff.
Sentimental.
Yeah, I got bright green because I always lose stuff. So I figured if it's bright green, I wouldn't lose it. And clearly, after how many years now? 15 years now, I've not lost it. I still use it. So yeah. Usually there's a whole bunch of papers here with my clients' notes and all that, but obviously I've taken it out, right? But yes, this is something that's very
So
important.
this
to
is
me.
what you use on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, this is
doing
my
your work.
weapon, so to speak. So this is where we take our notes. We're talking to our clients, we're writing down our ideas and thoughts about what's happening and all that. So yeah.
Do you remember when did you get it?
So this was when in my second year of my masters, when we started seeing clients, so we started trainee therapists, right? So we could use the center's boards, but I thought the boards were like very flimsy and like not very nice to write on, right? So I went to, I think this was from, actually it's still here, Popular. Oh, Times, sorry, not Popular, Times, still here. So I've got the Times, I got this, it's bright green, I loved it, and yeah, I've been using it ever since.
The price tag is still on
It's
it.
still on, $3.90.
Can you show
I
the
don't know,
camera?
I don't know what you
There's
can
a
get for
price
$3.90
tag.
nowadays, but yeah, it's still there.
Wow.
It's broken in half. That's why I've sellotaped it with like the big, strong masking tape, and it's still good. I still write on it.
See, this is the kind of attitude that we're missing on these days. These days
buy
it's just
new,
brick
right?
and buy, brick and buy. But then this is pure
Yeah,
demonstration of
yeah.
like Tenacity.
I was just telling my wife, maybe I should stop using it because I'm afraid I'll properly break it like until the point I can't use it. But no, I still go back to it. Lah.
It'd be a great art piece. You frame it up and they put it up on top.
I
Right? It's
don't
like
know how artistic this is, but good idea. I should try that and see.
because it's a nice color too.
Yeah, in your face, definitely in your face.
Okay.
All right. So this last
What is
thing
this
here,
next
it's not the egg, but it's just a container.
It's
Right?
your daughter's.
Yeah. So obviously, when you are, because this is such a weird question that you guys asked me, bring 3 things from home. Man. Three things.
What do I bring?
Correct,
Is it a
so-
Polly Pocket?
Some close. So I asked my kids, like, what
He
should
knows
I
what a
bring,
Polly
right?
Pocket is.
Yes, that's my daughters, right? So my daughters are really into clay, and they made like this kind of clay stuff. So this is from my youngest daughter. Not
Okay,
bad.
have a
So
look.
pretty,
It's
right?
So pretty, yeah.
This is from my first daughter. So it's a rabbit, it's a bunny
Hey, they're
holding a
very,
carrot.
very immaculate, very
Yeah,
detailed.
my eldest daughter especially, she loves this kind of art and craft and things like that, right? So this is my wife's duck, which is still not bad. It's quite cool.
Your wife's duck.
Yeah, she made. Well, she did this lah for doing. Okay, so my challenge for you, Nat, is this. So I did this one. Can you figure out what this is? Because all three of them couldn't.
Okay, hold on, guys. I need you guys to look at this. Does it is the color accurate though?
No, of course not. I just picked the piece of clay closest to me.
It's a cat.
Yeah, it's a cat. Yeah. I tried to make a cat. That's why it's a little tail at the back.
Yeah,
as
and
well.
because I
Yeah.
saw, like, are there like whiskers on
Yes,
the
I
face?
tried. Yes.
And
So clearly, my abilities are more in speech and talking rather than making stuff with my hands, lah. My daughters
Yeah,
have
look
the
at
skill.
his.
Yes, that's Jody's one. So that's a lot better
Oh,
than mine.
Jody.
6-year-old.
So this is what they do at home.
Yeah. So the whole board thing. So we make sure that we have stuff for them to get bored with, right? So they do this. They paint. They make random paper origami things and all that.
Right.
So which keeps them happy. Which means we have more stuff at home, but it works lah. So we're happy to do that lah.
How do you like being a dad? A girl's dad.
When we had our first daughter, I woke up some mornings thinking, how am I a dad? I can barely take care of myself. When we had we were going to have my second kid, I told my wife, I hope it's a girl because I don't think I know how to be a boy dad because I'm so used to being a girl dad. And so after 10 years of being a dad, I still wake up some mornings thinking, how am I a dad? I don't even take care of myself. But it's been good lah. It's been an interesting journey lah. I think them more than anyone else has challenged me to no end, and I think you learn so much from them, right? So it's been a good journey so far.
What's one thing you've learned after being a dad for 10 years?
Patience. I think just that ability to ask questions. Like they're so inquisitive, right? Because they want to know. To be fair, bordering sometimes on irritation. They ask you non-stop. But I think that's something that a lot of people lack. Right? I think because society teaches you to stop asking questions. You just be quiet, sit there. And I never want that for them because I want them to ask, because the more they ask, the more they learn. So I think that's what they remind me and they teach me every day. Like, just keep asking questions, be curious. And honestly, when I work with my clients, that's what works the best. Don't worry about your theories and modalities so much. Just be curious about their stories and what they have to tell you and what they've been through, and it works. So that's been good for me.
Why is it? I feel like when we grew up, it was always don't ask so many questions. If not, you are too busybody. And then you're being rude.
Yeah.
I find that used to be a thing. And if it's other people's business, don't be curious about it because that's you being rude. Don't be so kepochi lah, basically.
Yeah, right.
But now I love that. Coming from you, even you say that it's good for you to be inquisitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to be curious, right? So I like that. That's how mindsets changing, opinions are changing about just being curious in general.
I think our Asian sensibilities will still always be there. So like I tell my daughter, it's okay to be curious, but also read the room. If the person is like, doesn't want to talk or doesn't say anything, then back off, it's okay. But it's always nice to be kind and offer that question and say hi and introduce yourself and all that, be curious about them. And so far so good, they're doing that quite well.
Nice. Okay, anything else you want to show
No,
us
that's
today?
it.
That's it.
I racked my brain for these 3 things, man.
So it really is the different stages of your life. So this
I
is when
think
you
so.
were a student, you playing frisbee.
Yeah.
And then
My livelihood now.
your livelihood, that's happening till now. And of course, your
Kids.
2 little angels.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
All
they're
right.
Angels or monsters, but angels.
Perspective.
There we go. Good job. Good job.
Thank you, Joel, for showing us your prized possessions.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next question. This one is a little bit heavy, I would say.
Yep.
I'd like to hear your thoughts on a pressing matter right here in Malaysia and also globally, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of violence and bullying in schools
Mm.
happening these days. So I want to know what's your perspective on this, and do you feel children today think or behave differently compared to previous generations?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they definitely do think differently, behave differently, right? And I think the reason why, again, is the exposure that they're getting, right? So you know how back when we were growing up, our the people that we grew up with our same age peers, right? So that means if I'm standard four, then I'm growing up with other standard four kids, and when from four likewise, right? So that means to say our social and behavioral development it parallels the years that we're in, right? So when I am in standard four, I'm learning about what friendships. I'm learning about maybe some puppy love here and there. I'm learning that bullying. How do you bully as a 4-year old? Standard four, and so that's 11-year old, for example, and things like that. So the repercussions are also similar in that sense, right? And now as I grow older and older, so by the time I hit, let's say, form four, form five, it's the same elements, but it's a lot more advanced, right? So right now, relationship is not just about I'm my best friend, you best friend, me, right? It's about having a clique of friends. It's about having some kind of social hierarchy, where you've got, like, the queen bees, for example, or the hotter guys and things like that, and then the geeks and the nerds and the whatever it is, right? So it's a lot, but again, the same idea here is that you're learning, with similar age peers, lah, basically, lah, right? So you're developing at the same pace, right? So the lessons that you learn are also similar in that sense, at the same pace. Now, because we have the internet and that's broken down all of that, right? So you get to learn from, when you're 4 years old, you're looking at what a teenager does. You're a teenager, you're looking at what adults do and things like that. And the kind of content that we consume nowadays also, it's very wild and very, they lose that slow progressive developmental growth, right? So it's like, basically, for example, let's say you visit a country you've never been to before. Let's say I go to Japan, for example. I get dumped in Japan and no one has given me any kind of heads up, or hey, this is how Japan is like, and it's very overwhelming and it overwhelms me. So am I likely to do something that is going to be a faux pas in Japan, or it's socially unacceptable in Japan? Yes. Maybe I'll eat on the bus, maybe I'll talk very loudly on the train, or whatever it is, right? These kids are going through that every single day of their lives, right? So they haven't learned the rules yet, right? So for example, like, for a young kid, they don't realize that, when I play a game, I hurt someone, or I die in the game, for example, they know that they can reset, right? But for a young kid who has not grown up properly, they fail to realize that me punching someone now has repercussions for me the next day, as opposed to games, for example, they learn. And I think it's because they don't grow up in a progressive enough way, lah. They grow up all of a sudden, right? So they're having to learn all these lessons all at once, and it overwhelms them completely. So some kids cope with it, some don't, and I think, honestly, at this point, a lot don't, unfortunately, lah. And I think that's the main reason why there's so much ills going around. I think so much struggles going around.
It is their exposure. It's a rapid exposure
That's right.
every single
Right. It's
day.
like a giant dump onto them and they can't cope, lah.
So then, in your opinion, what do you think, the Ministry of Education can do to, whether it's the primary level, secondary
Mm,
level,
mm,
to really help better support or nurture, our children's
mm.
their health, their thinking patterns, or whatever? What can it incorporate in school?
I think from a ministry level, I think they're already starting. I think recently they announced that they're going to want to start banning social media for anyone under the age of 16, right? So I think that's a pretty decent start. But I think their intentions need to be spelled out better, lah, right? A lot of people are now getting mad because they're saying, why are you blocking social media? That's not how you do it, and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's because the narrative isn't explained properly, lah, right? So if they explain, let's say, for example, what I said just now, we're banning social media because we want the kids to grow up according to their age groups and all that kind of things, then it's a lot more justifiable. It makes more sense, right? So I think that's something they definitely do. I think the second thing they can do is to make sure that, there are more age appropriate activities being done. But not only that, stop treating kids like kids of the past. You know how kids of the past, you tell them, okay, go walk here, they walk there. Go jump here, you jump there. You go play this game, go play the game. Kids don't think like that anymore. They want to know why. They want to understand the reasons why they do the things that they do. Like recently, for example, my kid was in a netball competition, right? She's in the netball team. And the teacher was explaining to her, oh, as a wing attack, you only can run between these zones. As the goal defense, you only can run between these zones. And then my daughter was like, why? Why can't I run up and down? What's the logic behind it? So I think when we treat kids nowadays as very simple, more simply, just telling them what to do, they just listen. It doesn't fly anymore, lah, right? So from a Ministry of Education level, having that, cascade down to the teachers so that their teaching changes. You don't just teach them, but you explain to them. Help them understand why things are happening and everything. I think it's a lot better for the development, lah. I think that's something we can definitely try on a ministry level, lah.
So it really helps as a parent when you come from this background because you really understand the possible logic behind certain decisions made by the ministry as
That's
well.
right. That's right. But as general populations, we won't get it, or they won't get it, right? And I think that's where the struggle comes from, lah.
Like you said, general population, which means, let's just talk about the people in Malaysia. I think their exposure to the way the brain works, psychological processes of things, is growing rapidly,
Yes,
I would
that's
say,
right.
right? As opposed to when you first started. But I will also say exposure to it, as much as it's growing via social media, it's also very limited,
Correct. Correct.
right? Because there's a lot of things we don't understand still.
A lot of noise as well, lah.
A lot of noise.
Yeah, bad information or incorrect information. So people make odd decisions at times, lah. So these things are good, right? So we share good information out there. So the more people know, the more informed they are, the better decisions they can make, lah.
So then what do you think it's like, how is it like running a psychological service right here in Malaysia? Are there certain obstacles that you have to jump through or,
Yeah.
challenges?
Yeah, I think so. I think when I first started the center, my dad being the stalwart traditional businessman that he was, asked me, "Oh, what are you going to do for customer retention?" Right, which is normal for any business, right? You have gift cards or those kind of coupons. You stamp, and then you come back for 10 free sessions and all that. And then I told my dad, "No, we don't have anything like that. We want our clients to leave as soon as possible." And it just completely blew his mind. And then I told him, "No, that's therapy, right? Like, one thing I tell clients is this, right? I hope I never have to see you again, right? But in the best of ways, because if you don't need to see me means you're doing fine, right?" And I think that's some of the challenges that we have to face as a mental health facility trying to survive as a traditional business, lah. Because the way we make money, for example, is not the same way. The way we market, right? We don't do traditional billboard marketing or TV marketing and all that. We don't do any of that. The only marketing, quote unquote, that we do is education, right? Because for us, it's kind of weird, right? You see a giant billboard that says, "Do you feel depressed? Do you feel scared? Come find us." It's weird. This is a very bad taste in our mouth, right? So for us, we eschewed all that and we said, "Look, let's go through education. Let's teach people. The more they know, the better decisions that they can make. Then if we can help them along the way, great. Let's do that, lah." And touch wood, lah. So far, so good. It's been working, lah. So I think the last one would be the stigma, lah. A lot of people are still or used to be really scared and afraid to see us. And this is something that I say hesitantly because COVID was really, really bad for a lot of people. But for just the understanding and the feel of mental health, it was really, really good because it really made people confront the fact that this is an issue. You have to face it. You have to do something about it, lah. So that day we had someone come in who was, I think, pushing 80, 90 years old, right? So my business partner and I were saying, if an 80, 90-year-old uncle, auntie can come in for sessions, we're doing something right. Because they are the generation that are the most resistant towards this and things like that, right? So yeah, we thought, okay, lah, something's working, lah. So we're quite happy about that, lah.
But I thought they said, therapy is something that you should start having before problems arise. That's what I hear. So what's your opinion about that? Should you continue taking therapy so that you constantly have someone to talk to about how you feel, or it's very problem focused?
I think from an idealistic point of view, having consistent therapy sessions, even if it's once a month, once every 3 months, it's not a bad idea. Because I think sometimes we go through things or we're experiencing things that we may not notice. It's like so minor, and then it grows and grows and grows and grows and becomes a big issue. So if you're seeing someone consistently, what's going to help? How that's going to help is that you have someone to keep an eye on you, basically, right? And that's a good way to keep things in check. But practically speaking, that's not practical because sessions are not cheap, right? There's expenditure not only in terms of money but also time as well, right? So I think because of that, modern therapy styles have evolved to be more problem focused as well. So for me, I try and kill two birds with one stone, lah, right? So when clients come and see me, it is problem focused. So like they're going through a divorce, job separation, the marital separation, job being fired or whatever it is, right? So we try and fix that problem. But what I try and do also is to equip them with more generalizable skills and understanding, so then they can replicate the same thing for every other aspect of their life, not just this one problem, lah. So that's what we encourage our team to do as well, lah. At the end of the day, that's what I said earlier on, lah. I hope I really never to see my clients again. So whatever we learn now, hopefully you can generalize it moving forward, lah. So we get the best of both worlds a little bit, lah.
Okay. Do you think the psychology sector in Malaysia receives enough support from the government, in your opinion?
Yes and no. It's getting better, right? So just some fun facts. The Allied Health Act was put into place in 2017, right? So the clinical psychologists like myself are governed under that act, right? That means to say up to 2017, clinical psychologist as a profession does not exist and is not recognized by the government, right? So when I graduated in 2011 as a clinical psychologist, my seniors were telling me, "Oh yeah, the government is going to pass this act soon. We're going to be recognized soon." It took them almost a decade for it to happen. 2017 it passed. Only this year we started. This year and last year, sorry, we started registering and licensing or issuing practicing certificates to clinical psychologists. So now finally we are a recognized profession, right? So have we been given enough support by the ministry, the government? No. Let's be frank, no. And I think it has been a problem, because that means if we do not recognize as a profession, they cannot put money into the profession, meaning to say that they cannot hire people, so people don't have access to us. But it's changing lah. So now that this is all happening, then it gets more formalized, it gets more proper, we get more support and recognition, and hopefully that way we can help more people lah.
What's the kind of recognition that would really tremendously help the industry?
Honestly, it's as simple as having paid positions. So, like in the past, right, because it's not a recognized profession, the government cannot formally hire a clinical psychologist. So that means the hospitals and all that will not have a clinical psychologist. Even if they had, also usually the hospitals will hire them as, let's say, either as a counselor or as a mental health or psychology officer or something like that. Like, I don't know the specifics of it, right? So meaning to say that there is someone there, but we're hamstrung. We cannot do the full extent of our expertise and our abilities. So now that it's being recognized, they can hire us properly and we can do our jobs properly. We can do a lot more things to help people in terms of treatment or diagnosis or assessments or whatever it is. So it's a good thing. Now they can start putting more resources into us, and that way that means we can help more people, which is always a good thing.
Okay, hopefully we're having one foot in front of another,
Hopefully.
little bit by bit, and
Yeah.
of course you paving the way for many others, being, I think, in the industry for such a long time, especially here in Malaysia. So finally, for listeners who may be struggling with their own mental health issues, or maybe caring for someone who has some mental health issues, what is one piece of practical advice you would like to leave them with?
So I've left a few already, but I think this one to cap it off would be nice. If it's something that's been in your mind for a while and you're not sure, go see someone. Best case scenario, it's absolutely nothing, you're fine, off you go. Worst case scenario, it's something that could be something bigger. We catch it early, we fix it early, it doesn't become a big problem. So I think if it's something that weighs in your mind, you're thinking about it, you're not sure, just go get yourself checked out. What's the worst that can happen? The good thing is that in Malaysia right now, there are lots of either reduced fee options like MMHA, Malaysian Mental Health Association, MIASA, that you can go and see. A lot of training universities as well, like HELP, Monash, Taylor's, IMU. What they do is that they have this master's program for counselors and clinical psychologists. So part of their training is to see clients. So it's a win-win. So they give sessions for either reduced rates or free, and then in turn they get the training, right? So if you are not sure, go see one of these things. They're free, they're not low rates. You get checked out and make sure that everything's okay. Like I said, worst case scenario, it is something. Then you go and get it sorted out, basically. So I think that's the best advice I can give at this point.
Thank you, Joel,
No
for
problem.
your time. And just before we send you off, I want to leave you with a question that I ask all of the guests as well. And could you tell us, where's your favorite restaurant to eat at in Malaysia?
Oh man, this is controversial. Because I had one pre-kids, and now with kids. So that's changed significantly. I think right now the restaurant we go to the most often, or we enjoy the most, lah, is this little mom and pop restaurant in SS19 Subang called Alai's Curry Fish Head. They serve this clay pot curry with stingray. I think stingray. I think it's called stingray. So my wife and I like that, and my kids like the fried chicken and meat there as well, lah. So that's our favorite restaurant right now, lah, with the kids, lah.
Wow, wow, wow. That's the first time we've heard that.
Really?
And it's not controversial. What do you mean?
Well, no, not controversial. Just that it's got pre and post, lah. Before kids, it's all like alcohol and stuff like that. Now it's like gotta be family friendly, and kids can eat as well, lah.
Okay, okay, got it. So before you go, any last words to say goodbye to our...
No, thank you. Hopefully anyone hears this can get some good out of it. Reach out for help. Like I said, it's not a big deal. There's so many people seeing therapists out there. It's not taboo anymore, and in most cases, no one will know you're seeing a therapist anyways if you don't tell. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Really love my time with you today.
Okay, everybody, thank you for taking your time to listening to this episode as I pick Dr. Joel Lowe's brain a little bit here about psychology and our kids growing up and also the progression of mental health awareness in the country. This was The Whole Story, a new podcast series brought to you by V On Air, Resorts World Genting's first ever online radio. If you like more stories about Malaysians, remember to follow us for more upcoming episodes or tag us on our socials at Resorts World Genting if you'd like to recommend some. Till next time, bye-bye.